Hello and welcome to this live stream. My name is Beatrice Madach. I work with Bach Foundation, and I'm just giving you a brief introduction and an overview over this event. Coming up is the interview with Rudolf Lutz, our artistic director and conductor. He will today be talking about our concert tour that we did last fall, and its title was With Brahms and Bach. So this was a tour that we did in 5 cities across Switzerland. And during the final concert of this tour, there was a recording made. And today we will be talking about this tour and also the recording that was made during the last concert. And at the very end of this event today, I will introduce our crowdfunding campaign for the production of the Bach and Brahms CD. Because like I mentioned, there was a live recording that was done during this tour. And we feel like this recording has such great quality that we would very, very much like to release it as a CD with your support. More about this shortly towards the end of this event. And now I would like to hand over to Alice Noger, who is our media representative and who will be conducting the interview with Rudolf Lutz. Enjoy.
Hello, everyone. Hello to our community around the world. It's wonderful that you can join us today. And hello, Rudi. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to speak with you.
I'm also looking forward, Alice, and I wonder what sort of questions you have prepared for me.
Well, let's start with something simple. We chose a program of Bach's Kantate Wer weiß wie nah mir mein Ende, so who knows how near to me my end is, and we decided to combine that with the Brahms Requiem. Tell us a bit about that decision.
It was a very interesting procedure. Of course, one could perform Brahms just only, alone, without anything. But also at the time of Brahms, there were a lot of combinations with Bach and also with things like that. And we decided, why not taking a cantata, which also handles from the question, how long can I live? How will it be with my death? And there's a very special Schlusschoral, an ending hymn in the Bach, which is called Himmel. Perhaps you could tell us, Alice, that.
Welt a day, ich bin dein müde. In English, that would be world a day, of thee I am weary.
And it's not the typical normal chorale by Bach with his harmonization, but it's a piece a composer before him wrote. It's Rosenmüller, and I think it might be just fine if you could now listen to how this piece sounds. Alice, what's your thoughts when you hear that?
It's exquisite music and quite Renaissance in its sound.
That was also a thought of us. As who's us? That's Konrad Hummler, our patron. He had the idea, and I first thought, is that really a good idea? But when we rehearsed it, I remember very well, I was fascinated by this magic moment. Because it's not only Bach interested in Renaissance music and his predecessors, but it's also Brahms. He loved Bach, of course, and he loved Renaissance. He loved Schütz. And if you hear now the next few minutes, we'll just show you an example from the beginning of the Brahms Requiem, where you also have the feeling when you listen to the choirs inspired by a Renaissance painting.
Mm-hmm. So Alexander, could you maybe play us the next example? It's a bit of a longer one, but we hear the end of the Rosenmüller chorale and the way that in the concert that we so held the moment and the tension, and it just flowed directly into the first movement of the Brahms Requiem. Really, that's really very beautiful words that we hear there. If I may share the English translation with you. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted.
That's interesting. The requiem is sort of not for those who died, but those who stay, who are sad that somebody beloved has now died. And it's comforting in this moment. And this sound, it makes me always so happy when I hear it. I'm sure I'm not the only one who loves the Brahms Requiem.
Mm-hmm. And quite an unusual approach that Brahms took with the combination of texts that he took then from, I think, the Old and the New Testament.
Yes. Well, next question, Alice.
Rudy, when you decide to combine a Baroque piece of music with a romantic piece of music and you want to go from one directly to the other, I imagine you had to make quite a lot of artistic decisions in that regard. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, Alice. Normally, of course, when we play Bach, we don't have a big orchestra. 8 first violins, 6 second, 6 violas, 6 cellos, and even 5 double basses. A huge orchestra. Sounds, of course, marvelous for Brahms. And my concert master said, "Do you really want to do Bach with all?" I said, "Yes, I want to do with them all. I would have a new sort of sound, perhaps a Brahmsy sound. I don't know. But I imagined it, a romantic sound. And then I said, the 2 oboes, why not double them with flutes, also color them with flutes, and give an under octave with the bassoons. And the choir, the recitatives also with the whole choir. I think we could listen to the first movement, Wer weiß, wie nahe mir mein Ende, with this very well-known chorale. I'm sure you recognize it.
Mm-hmm.
And English translation?
That would be, who knows how near to me my end is. Could you maybe play a little for us, Alexander? Really, it's a very, very full sound, but I love the fact that it's not heavy. Why is that? How did you avoid such a large ensemble making a heavy sound?
Oh, that's an interesting question, Alice. I think it is called Binnenphrasierung and Binnendynamik. I don't know the English word. Have you got an idea? Those little parts, it's not only, full vibrato, those little ups and downs. What's the name?
Be some kind of internal phrasing, let's call it.
That's fine. I've learned a new English word, internal phrasing.
Maybe I'm making that up, but I think maybe it also had a lot to do with the fact that you used period instruments.
Well, yes, we use period instruments for our Bach society, and here we took something we chose instruments about on the epoch of Brahms, so 1850, 1880, and that was of course very interesting. The wind instruments in special, they don't sound so fat and so broad as the modern instruments, although you can make a really big fortissimo, which sounds impressive.
Rudy, I have a very strong memory from the concert. I, of course, have heard you play Bach many, many times with a Baroque ensemble, with Baroque instruments. And the first recitative came, and my ears were ready for a harpsichord, but I was amazed to hear a harp. Can you tell us about that?
Well, I thought, why not a harp? We have a harp for Brahms, so we could use a harp also for Bach. Perhaps we could listen to a piece. Have you got an idea, Alice, a title?
Yes, I believe the recitative was called Mein Leben hat kein anderes Ziel. In other words, my life has no other goal.
Here we are.
Mein Leben hat kein anderes Ziel, als dass ich möge selig sterben und meines Glaubens Anteil erben.
Doesn't that sound fine, Alice?
Somewhat startling when you're not used to it, but it was quite exciting. And I remember then in the following aria that there were plenty more surprises in store for us. Could you tell us what you chose to do there?
There's an oboe da caccia. That's a big oboe. Doesn't exist in the orchestra sections anymore, so we took a clarinet. Sounds very fine, I think. And then the obbligato organ or cembalo, I let a violin play, and the harp played the continuo together with the cello and a double bass. And of course, the alto was sung by an altus, and that was perhaps a little mistake. Actually, I don't think Brahms would have used a men's voice, a countertenor. But when we were chatting, Alice, you said perhaps Brahms would have even been quite convinced about the sound of his voice.
I thought maybe, Brahms was a great admirer of Bach, and it's been proven that he also performed many of Bach's cantatas. And I thought maybe he would have chosen to use a countertenor simply as a nod to Bach and his era. Who knows?
So we hear the aria Willkommen, will ich sagen. In English?
That would be, oh, welcome, I will say. Rudy, I find it fascinating to compare this with the recording that you made a few years back with our ensemble on Baroque instruments. It's really something quite different.
That's true. And you could even listen to that. We've got it on Bachipedia. It's the BWV 27. And what is always fascinating for me, if you've got a good quality of the performance, fine intonation, a good groove, then it doesn't really matter what you have for instruments. It functions with Bach. You can also play it. You could also play it with 4 saxophones. It might be quite quaint.
Maybe we could do that next time. Rudy, we could talk about Bach all day, I think, but our time is limited. So let's move on and talk a little bit about the Brahms Requiem. Would you like to maybe share a couple of moments that are particularly important to you in this work?
That, of course, was a very difficult question. You asked me a few weeks ago when we looked for the examples. And I think I can't really say it's my favorite moment, but it's one of the great moments where Brahms lets the text be set into music. Aber des Herrn Wort bleibet in Ewigkeit. What's that in English?
But God's word, it is true forever.
Oh, you're great. You sound like a pastor.
I do my best. I do my best.
Yeah. And then it says, die Erlöseten des Herrn werden wiederkommen und sich freuen. Also ewige Freude, an incredible pleasure. And here's the recording.
That would be, I think, an excerpt from the choral setting. Denn alles Fleisch, es ist wie Gras, for all flesh is as grass. You know, Rudy, my computer here, my poor little speakers, they couldn't even really quite cope with that sound. I'm thrilled to think how that would actually sound on a CD in high sound quality. How many singers were that actually in the choir? It sounds like hundreds.
Well, Brahms, he had 200, 300, 400 in some concerts, and we had about 40. But of course, all professional musicians, and they avoid singing vibrato. They try to be very well timed, and all together with the same idea, and that makes an incredible increasement of the sound. That's an acoustic phenomenon. And of course, Alice, you are completely right. If you've got a great CD, the quality is quite different. Our staff member, Merit, she prepared a little CD, how it might look. Have a look. You see up good old Johnny up there and the other one, another Johnny, the double Johnnies together. And that would perhaps not only sound fine, but would also look fine. And what I love, of course, is with the CD, you've got a booklet. You can read a book. You can take a glass of cider or a fine beer or wine and read and listen.
Rudy, we had 2 really wonderful, wonderful soloists with us for the Brahms Requiem, Anna Maria Labin and Peter Harvey. Maybe we could hear something from them.
That's a good idea. And I think we could start with number 5. It's the sopran solo with choir and orchestra. Ihr habt nun Traurigkeit, aber ich werde euch trösten, wie eine Mutter euch tröstet. A beautiful text we hear now in beautiful English, Lady Alice.
And ye now therefore have sorrow, but I will see you again, and your heart shall rejoice.
Yeah, but the mother, you forgot the mother, or you've got another part of it. He says, God, I will comfort you like a mother comforts a baby. And I think that's an incredible thought and an incredible music. And Alexander, I would say, if you could give us the first part of this beautiful aria number 5.
Rudy, that's really wonderful, wonderful music. And I can see that already the questions are starting to come in from our community. So perhaps we could just wrap up with one last example, because I would hate to leave out something from Peter Harvey. He also had a wonderful baritone solo. Herr, lehre doch mich, Lord, make me know my end.
Peter Harvey, yes, I know him since decades. I'm very happy when he can sing. He has a beautiful German too, but he doesn't only sing, he tells the story. And it needs somebody who tells the incredible story. Perhaps we could listen to this number 3.
Really, I believe I would love to talk a little bit longer about the Brahms, but I've got quite a long list of questions here. So if you don't mind, I'll go directly into the first question that's come through from our community. And it's this: you toured 5 cities across Switzerland. Did the acoustics vary significantly between the venues? And if so, how did that influence the performances?
A lovely question. Yes, we had sometimes a concert hall like in St. Gallen or like in Bern, and we had big churches like in Schaffhausen and in Zurich. We had a very special acoustic. What we always do, we are 3 hours before the concert, we come together and somebody listens in the Kirchenschiff. What's that? The Kirchenschiff.
In the nave of the church.
In the nave of the church, and they say the clarinets are a bit too soft, one doesn't hear the alto, and so on, and so on. And then, of course, in the moment, what comes back as a musical feedback, sort of like an echo, gives incredible influence for me. And I'm an improviser, and so we also improvise what happens in the moment.
And Rudy, the next question. You're deeply experienced in conducting Bach's works. How does it feel to step into the world of a different composer, such as Brahms in this case?
To be honest, I did a lot of conducting of other works, and I think it's not even so terribly interesting to conduct Bach because the musicians can do it themselves. Perhaps you can influence something. Perhaps you can say, okay, take that oboe there and then listen to the voice and do that and that and that and that. Sort of, it's like showing the counterpoint and getting the balance together. But conducting a Brahms or Mozart or a Beethoven, we were allowed to do the Beethoven 9. That's an interesting question. What happens with the conductor? And yeah, I mean, that was a real great pleasure that I could have my wish fulfilled to do Brahms once again.
Mm-hmm. I have to say, for us in the audience, I've seen you conduct Bach so many times, and it's always a great pleasure. And it was really quite extraordinary for me to see you conduct a different work. I enjoyed it very much. It was a totally different body language, and I wondered how you experienced it.
Well, I can't even tell you too much about this. I'm so much in music, if it's really going fine, and well, I would have to have a look with a coach telling me what am I actually doing. I just try to listen to what's happening and try to influence that what's doing. I'm helping the orchestra to get at its best. That's what I would say now to this question.
Mm-hmm. And Rudy, the next question: what does Bach's music mean to you personally?
What a question.
Mm.
It's changed in the last 20 years. I always was very respectful from Brahms. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about Bach. Respectful for Bach and his counterpoint and the way he uses instrument. And what shall I say? I'm very much interested in the text and what happens with the text and how does that come to music and can we express that what Bach wanted to say or which I imagine I wanted to say or what I think Bach might have wanted to say with his music.
Mm-hmm. And Rudy, what does your preparation process look like before conducting a major performance?
I'm happy if I mustn't answer too many emails and not too much administration that I can just dig in to the scores. If it's Brahms or it's Bach, it's always the same. I learn the single melodies. I learn the combination of a duo, perhaps an oboe two, and the viola. I try to listen to the voice. I sing the voice a lot of time. And if I take enough time, then sort of after a time, I've got the feeling the work starts to sound in me. And that gives me the feeling that the fruit has ripened.
And maybe one more question. As a young musician with a deep love for playing Bach, I'm always striving to improve. Do you have any advice on how to deepen my interpretation and develop the kind of artistry that your orchestra demonstrates?
I've got a few thoughts when this question comes in. The best would be if this person would once pop up in a rehearsal and we could talk about that. And perhaps this person could see how it functions. I think what I said before, having enough time to sink in, and not only to the voice one sings or one plays, but also what happens with this. And of course, a lot of young musicians listen to performances, and then they learn the performance in just copying or taking things from a performance. I still am the old-fashioned conductor who says, go into the score, go into the manuscript and understand what happens there. That's of course a hard way of getting into it, but I think it's worthwhile.
Certainly, I think pays the greatest dividends in the end.
Alice, I could ask you, you're a horn player. How do you prepare your horn parts?
Already, unfortunately, I haven't played actively for many years now, but it's always a great joy when I hear the horn players in your performances. Really, the standards is extraordinarily high. There's such unbelievably slippery parts to play, and so I'm full of admiration for the horn players in our performances.
So I think you realize that I like the horn as an instrument very much.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I love the way that you let them fly in the performance. Many conductors do this.
Yes, exactly. And
When
I
the
say, come on, bring it, boys
exactly,
and
and
girls.
yes, yeah, and whenever you conduct the brass instruments, you let them fly, and that's a wonderful thing. Rudy, I'm looking at the time, and I know we have to hand back over to Beatrice soon. And oh, I see she's just sent me a message that there's a question, one last question. Oh, how long have you been considering putting Bach and Brahms together?
Well, that was in the planning phase when we were talking about how shall we do it. And I think it was an idea, like I mentioned it before, that Konrad Hummler, we were talking about that. He said, why not have a Bach cantate? Because we're the Bach Society. And then we developed that idea. And like you heard at the beginning, the Rosenmüller was that magic moment we wanted to have. And of course, it was a great luck for me that we could record number 5 in Schaffhausen. It was one of my best moments I think I had ever had. It was really a fulfillment of my deepest wishes, having those two composers together.
And Rudy, I know you to be a very modest person, and often after your performances to be quite self-critical. And so, if you don't mind me sharing, I remember congratulating you after the tour, and you said, "Thank you, Alice. I believe it's one of the greatest things I've ever done." And I really feel, yeah, I just want to ask you maybe as a last question, what did this project mean to you?
I hope anyway that you gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, realize that it was something terribly important for me. I was talking about the fulfillment of a wish. Brahms was also the connection with my beloved English grandmother. She always loved Brahms, and I sort of overtook that love from Brahms. And I remember after the performance in Schaffhausen, I thought, perhaps that's the last time, Rudy, you can conduct this piece. And it was a moment when I listened to the recording. It reminded me of a great jazz concert. Sometimes you hear a recording of a jazz piece. I was thinking of Duke Ellington and Ella Fitzgerald in Mac the Knife. I think it was one of those concerts. I think it was not the Stockholm, but the Côte d'Azur when it started. And the band was in a mood. You know, this incredible groove, and we realized now something will be happening. And they went half tone up, half tone up, half tone up. The band was in a good mood, and Ella was in a good mood. She did all the same things she normally does with that piece, but it was a crashing performance. And it reminded me a little bit of that, what we were allowed to experience when we did our Schaffhausen concerts.
There was an extraordinary energy in the room and such a spontaneity. And I was delighted when I heard the recording to see that this atmosphere really did get captured on the recording. And so,
of course, we in German say Selbstruhm stinkt. What's that in English?
Oh my goodness, say again?
Selbstruhm stinkt.
Aha, yeah, that boastfulness has a bad smell to it.
My boastfulness, yes, exactly. But you see, we are somehow enthusiastic about the thing.
And I think, Rudy, if once in your lifetime that you say that this is the best thing that you've ever done, then I think that we can do our best to make sure that that moment gets captured on a CD. And I think with those words, I better hand back over to Beatrice, because I can see that I've gone slightly over time. So Beatrice, back to you.
Yes, thank you so much. This was, again, a very, very interesting interview. And now I would like to talk a little bit more about the crowdfunding campaign that we are now launching. As you've heard, there is this great recording from this tour, and we would like to produce a CD with it. And we are very much hoping that you will support this. And we have a crowdfunding website, so you can basically look underneath the video that you're watching, and there you will find a link in the description. to this crowdfunding website. And now I will share this page with you to explain a little bit how exactly crowdfunding works. Some of you might not know it. So here you can see the crowdfunding website. It's called Crowdify. It's a very established website in Switzerland for crowdfunding purposes. You can find a full explanation of this project on this page. And as you can see, there have been some donations already because basically we did this live stream about an hour ago in German. So some people have already started to donate for this project. You can have a look around on this website, and the way in which it works is that if you choose to support us, there will be goodies for you. So I just opened the goodie tab in order to be able to show you. You can support us with small amounts of money, such as 10 Swiss francs, and you will always get a goodie. One for 10 Swiss francs would be a little postcard, a signed postcard by Rudolf Lutz. You can also give 15 Swiss francs and you will be receiving a poster, the tour poster basically. For 30 Swiss francs, you will be receiving answers to your questions. It can be questions about Bach, it can be questions to Rudolf Lutz, it can be questions to the Bach Foundation in general. So we will see whoever can respond to your questions will send you a voice message. Then there's, of course, the possibility of purchasing a CD in advance so that you give 50 Swiss francs and you will be receiving a CD once it's published, once we've been able to go through with this production. Then you can also give 100 Swiss francs and you will be getting 2 CDs. The CDs will always be hand-signed by Rudolf Lutz. But like I said, have a look around on this crowdfunding website. The link is underneath the video stream. There are other great goodies, such as, for instance, if you give 400 Swiss francs, you can have a one-on-one conversation with Rudolf Lutz for 30 minutes via phone. And there's also the possibility, if you're willing to give 500 Swiss francs, to attend one of our concerts, a concert of your choice, and to also attend the après-concert. So after the concert, a dinner together with artists, together with people from Bach Foundation. And for 900 Swiss francs, on top of this, you will also get an overnight stay for 2. This price is sponsored by Hotel Oberweid. It's a 4-star superior hotel. And thank you very much to Hotel Oberweid for sponsoring this prize. We are aiming at raising 20,000 Swiss francs. Everything's included in that. So from the recording to the sound engineering to the actual production of the CDs, but also the creation of the booklets, the design, translations, texts. So all of that goes into this. And basically, we started this campaign today, just an hour ago. It will be running for 25 days. We've already had 8 people supporting it. And we would be very, very happy if you were willing to support this endeavor and make this CD production possible for us. And now I'm coming back to the main room. And to say the final goodbyes, it would be really nice to have you, Rudi, as well as Alice, come online again so that we can see you with video and also hear you, so that we can say our goodbyes and people can say goodbye to us. And Rudi, do you have the actual CD? Like I think we created a mock-up, right? Oh, we can't hear you yet, Rudi. I think you have to, yes.
Am I here? I'm here. It's not the actual CD. It's a fake. What a nice fake, don't you think so?
Yes, it looks really perfect, especially here on screen. Nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us from around the world. It's been wonderful having you. Goodbye.
Bye. Goodbye.
Bye.